Hello, and welcome to California Death Row, where we're talking about it. If you're following us on our podcast, we post Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. And then if you're following our YouTube channel, talking about California Death Row, we also upload it there, and that's where you can watch it or read about it if you don't like hearing my voice, but that's up to you. There are currently 727 condemned inmates on California's death row, and today we're going to talk about the first woman to receive the death penalty in Orange County. Her name is Maria Alfaro. She goes by Rosie, so if you're looking for a news article about her, Rosie Alfaro is what you'll most likely find instead of Maria. She was roughly 18 or 19 years old at the time of the offense. Some sources were saying 18. If you're looking at the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, they say that she was 19 years old at the time. She committed this offense June 15th, 1990, and she was received July 20th, 1992. On June 15th, 1990, Autumn Wallace was murdered in her home. She was 9 years old. She lived in Anaheim with her mother, Linda, her sister, April, and April's infant son. Autumn's friend, Christine, testified that their local school had an early day on Friday, June 15th, and school recessed at 2:35 p.m. About that time, she and Autumn left school and went to Autumn's house. 3 of Wallace's neighbors testified that on the afternoon of Autumn's murder, they each separately observed a reddish or goldish bronze Monte Carlo parked in the driveway of Wallace's residence and 2 Hispanic men standing nearby facing the street. One of the men was holding a child approximately 18 months in age. He was subsequently identified as Antonio Shorty Reynoso. April, Autumn's sister, testified that she attempted to telephone Autumn at approximately 4:30 p.m. to inform Autumn that she would arrive home late from work, but Autumn did not answer the phone. April returned to the residence at approximately 5:15 and found the front door locked. She entered and observed the residence was in disarray. The hall closet was open and things were scattered around. April called out for Autumn, but received no answer. When April entered her bedroom, she noticed that her television and mirror were missing and some clothing had been thrown around. April immediately left the residence and went across the street to a neighbor's house. At approximately 5:40 p.m., Linda arrived at the residence and was informed by April that the house had been burglarized and that Autumn was missing. Linda entered in search of Autumn and noticed that many items were missing. Linda instructed April to telephone the police from another location after she was unable to locate a telephone in the house. While April ran to a neighbor's residence to make the call, Linda searched her home and discovered Autumn's body in the bathroom. Autumn's body was in the back bathroom. Maria was a high school friend of April and resided approximately 3 blocks from the Wallace residence. In the course of her friendship with April, Maria visited the Wallace home on many occasions and resided there for a short time while she was pregnant with her second child. April testified that after 1989, she and Maria ceased to be friends because April doubted Maria's veracity. Maria continued to contact April to request that she drive her to various destinations. Orange County Sheriff's Department investigator Tom Giffen testified that he arrived at the Wallace residence at approximately 7:20 p.m. on the night of the homicide. At approximately 11:15 p.m., Maria, her boyfriend Manuel Cueva, and their son Manny walked past the Wallace home. Maria asked Tom for permission to speak with April, but he declined. Tom testified that while speaking to Maria, he recalled witnesses' accounts that a small child had been seen in front of the house with 2 Hispanic men. The following following day, after learning that a fingerprint lifted from the Wallace bathroom matched Maria's fingerprint, Tom conducted an interview with Maria at the Sheriff's Department substation in Stanton. Maria denied any involvement in the crimes during this interview. Sometime after the murder, Maria left a bag of clothing at Maria Ruela's home, where Maria and Manuel periodically stayed overnight. Maria Ruelas testified that the clothing belonged to Maria Alfaro. Alfaro had telephoned her and asked her to leave the bag of clothing outside because Alfaro was leaving for Mexico early the next morning. But Maria Alfaro never returned for the clothes. On June 24, 1990, investigator Tom obtained the bag from Maria Ruelas. When the bag was searched pursuant to a warrant, it was found to contain April Wallace's boots and Maria Alfaro's LA Gear tennis shoes. Immediately thereafter, police obtained a warrant for Maria's arrest, and she was arrested the following day. Maria was interviewed during a videotape session that lasted more than 4 hours. In the course of the interview, Maria confessed to murdering Autumn and burglarizing the Wallace residence. Maria's videotaped confession was presented to the jury. Maria told the police that on the day Autumn was murdered, she was staying at Manuel's father's home in Anaheim. She was 18 years old, the mother of 2 children, and pregnant with twins. Manuel was the father of the younger children. Maria was addicted to heroin and cocaine. On the day of the murder, she left Mr. Sueva's residence at approximately 11 a.m. to purchase drugs, taking Manny with her. Maria was driven by an unidentified acquaintance to an area of Anaheim known as Little Tijuana, where she sought out a man named Juan. Juan directed Maria to a nearby apartment where a man was rumored to be selling drugs. Maria left Manny with Juan at his apartment while she and another woman named Sabrina left to buy drugs, purchasing 2 dime bags, each of cocaine and heroin. And a dime bag is $10 worth of whatever drug that is. So they got $10 worth of cocaine and $10 worth of heroin, and you call it a dime bag. Maria and Sabrina returned to Juan's apartment, proceeding to cook and inject the drugs until approximately 2 p.m. Maria's acquaintance, Antonio Reynoso, who had been released from prison the previous day, also visited Juan's apartment that afternoon. When Maria and Sabrina exhausted their supply of drugs, Antonio offered to share his own drugs if Maria would share her rig. Now, a rig is what is used to inject those drugs, whether it's a needle, it's a syringe, some type of drug paraphernalia to inject the drugs. After Maria agreed, she and Antonio injected additional quantities of drugs while Sabrina looked after Manny. After consuming Antonio's entire supply of drugs, Maria desired to continue taking drugs but had run out of money. Thereafter, Maria, Antonio, and a second man drove to the Wallace home. Maria told Antonio that she formerly resided with the Wallaces and was willing to sell Antonio a video cassette recorder, or a VCR, that she had left at the residence. Upon arriving at the Wallace home, Maria told Antonio to hold her baby son, Manny, while she entered the residence. Maria admitted to police that she knew Autumn would be home alone that afternoon because both Linda and April were at work. Maria admitted stabbing Autumn, and she initially told police that shortly after entering the house, she saw a knife on the ground and stabbed Autumn. Later in the interview, she told police that she noticed and picked up the knife, which was on top of the washer or dryer near the rear bathroom, and then called Autumn into the bathroom and stabbed her. Maria subsequently described taking the knife from a kitchen drawer after Autumn admitted her to the residence. Maria repeatedly stated she acted alone and denied that either of the men knew of her plans to burglarize the house. Maria told police she decided to kill Autumn because Autumn could identify her as the perpetrator of the burglary. She explained that she took the knife into the bathroom with her and for several minutes considered killing Autumn. After calling Autumn into the bathroom, Maria removed some eyelash curlers from her makeup bag and asked Autumn to clean them for her. Autumn agreed, and she turned around at Maria's request, and Maria began to stab her. Maria told police she repeatedly stabbed Autumn in the back, chest, and head. Maria took a television set from April's room and a VCR set from the living room. Then she went outside. She came back inside, grabbed a typewriter, a mirror, telephone, clock radio, clothing, and a pair of boots from April's bedroom. She also took a telephone, an iron, lamp, radio, and Nintendo game from Linda's bedroom. She took a clock and calculator from the living room. And when she returned, she attempted to take a microwave, but determined it was too large to fit into the car. She took the knife she used to stab Autumn. Maria consistently maintained that Antonio remained outside in the driveway with Manny throughout the homicide and burglary. Maria was inconsistent about the whereabouts about the second man. Initially, she said he exited the vehicle to help her place the items inside the vehicle, but did not enter the house. Later, she suggested that the man may have entered the residence, and when she was describing about taking the microwave or not, she implied that the man had gone inside the residence as far back as the rear bedroom. Maria told police that the vehicle driven to the Wallace residence was an older model, a dark blue Camaro, and that neither her nor Antonio knew the identity of the driver. Police repeatedly challenged her description due to witness accounts described the vehicle as a goldish bronze or brown Monte Carlo, but Maria was adamant that this car was a dark blue Camaro. Despite being afforded numerous opportunities to implicate another person, Maria insisted she acted alone. Antonio Reynoso testified that he and the driver remained outside the Wallace residence in or around the driveway until Maria exited from the house carrying some household items. He testified that he did not know or could not identify the driver. He testified that neither him nor the second man entered the Wallace residence. He confirmed Maria told him she formerly resided at the house. And initially, Antonio believed Maria when she told him she owned the property she had removed from the house. He testified he decided not to buy the VCR because he knew it was stolen. And conversely, he had grown angry because Maria had sold the VCR to someone else. Antonio testified he did not notice any blood on Maria, and he did not learn about Autumn being murdered until he read about it in the newspaper, at which time he turned himself in to the authorities. Antonio was asked to identify the driver of the vehicle from a photograph by the prosecution at trial, but he testified that he did not recognize the man in the photograph. Police attempted to identify the second male who had been observed by witnesses outside the Wallace home. Police investigators considered more than 100 individuals. Police identified and then eliminated as a possible suspect a man named Robert Frias Gonzalez. Investigator Tom Giffen testified that police pursued this part of the investigation because he had difficulty believing Maria could have committed the murder alone. Tom concluded Maria knows the identity of the driver, but refused to give his identity. An autopsy revealed that Autumn suffered more than 50 stab wounds on her head, neck, upper portion of her torso, chest, front, and back. If you read some of those news articles, you can look up either Autumn Wallace's name or Rosie Alfaro, and some reports say that she was stabbed 57 times. Wounds on Autumn's heart and larynx caused her death. A paring knife was discovered on the floor near the murder scene and had a configuration and appearance that could easily have caused most, if not all, of the injuries. Linda informed police a boning knife with a 12-inch blade was missing. DNA testing revealed that blood found on the bottom of Maria's LA Gear shoe was consistent with Autumn's blood and was not consistent with Maria's. Several shoe prints found on the linoleum floor outside the bathroom revealed the same general class characteristics as hash marks made by Maria's LA Gear shoes. It's important that it says general class characteristics. So that means if you line up all the same looking LA Gear shoes, they all have the same general class characteristics. But if you decide to make new hash marks in the shoe, that can separate your shoe from someone else's shoe. If you have different like rocks embedded or they're worn out more than others, that is like kind of separates your shoe and makes your shoe like a fingerprint. Additionally, Maria's fingerprints and palm prints match some of the 26 fingerprints and a palm print discovered at various locations in the house. So that just confirms Maria was inside the Wallace residence. A paring knife and an eyelash curler were found on the bathroom floor next to Autumn's body. The eyelash curler being found next to Autumn's body does kind of corroborate with Maria's story, saying that she gave Autumn the eyelash curler for her to clean. Maria did not testify at the guilt phase. Maria argued that the man who had driven her and a co-conspirator to the Wallace residence had pressured her to murder Autumn under threat to the lives of Maria and her family. Maria did not name the driver or the co-conspirator, but both were men. As we found out, outside was Antonia holding her son Manny, but that's why investigator Tom Giffen was not 100% thinking that Maria did this murder by herself. Maria's first penalty phase trial ended in a mistrial. It was a 10-2 for death, and Maria testified at the first penalty phase. She did not testify at the second penalty phase, but her testimony was read to the jury. She presented evidence of her impoverished and violent childhood, history of drug abuse, and impaired mental state. What she was charged with was of murder, robbery, and murder burglary, which is a special circumstance that in the commission of committing a robbery that someone was murdered. And robbery is the action of taking property unlawfully from a person or place by force or threat of force. So if you're thinking about the incident of when she gave Autumn the eyelash curler and then she starts stabbing her, in a way that's kind of how they're playing the robbery because someone was there and present, versus burglary, you enter a building illegally with intent to commit a crime, especially theft. So Maria went in with the intent of stealing this VCR, and then in the events, Autumn was murdered. On August 6, 2007, the Supreme Court of California affirmed the judgment in its entirety. The United States Supreme Court denied her writ of cert in 2008, and they just refused to hear it. So, where is Maria Alfaro now? She's been on death row since July 20th, 1992. That will be 28 years. And she was the first woman to receive the death penalty in Orange County at the age of 20. So she committed the crime about 18 or 19, conflicting reports, and then she was sentenced to death at the age of 20. So she's still there, she's still alive, but she is still on death row. Thank you for listening to California Death Row, where we're talking about it. You can watch our episodes or listen to our episodes out of order. It doesn't matter. Our YouTube channel is talking about California Death Row. California is just the initials CA. That's where you can read it instead of listening to my voice. So give us a follow, subscribe. Up to you, but tune in next time.